Normally, I'm a very chill type of fan. I like to be open to all sorts of change. As long as the core characteristics of the characters are intact, I'm willing to try out new stuff. Sadly, when it comes to the Suicide Squad, I really can't maintain my chill attitude. Now, I have read and am reading some of the other Suicide Squad runs, the New 52 and Rebirth stuff, and I do admit they have their moments. But for me, the Suicide Squad will always be represented by the work of John Ostrander. In case you don't know what the Suicide Squad is, let me brief you here. The Suicide Squad was created, or reimagined, but that's a story for another day, as an in-story explanation as to why supervillains never seem to remain in prison. The Suicide Squad primarily consisted of these supervillains who would do dangerous missions for the United States government in exchange for shortened prison sentences. This was seen as a win-win situation. If the villains pulled off the job, hey, mission accomplished. If they got caught, they could be written off as supervillains causing problems and they would be promptly sent back to prison. Of course, this is a good idea only in theory. In practice, the missions would rarely be completed as planned, and the name Suicide Squad wasn't just there to sound cool. There were massive turnover rates and very few missions where everyone returned home in one piece. John Ostrander used the concept of the boxed crook to tell tales of political intrigue and international espionage, all set in the DC universe, and because most of the characters involved were C-list, there was no guarantee any of them would return from the latest mission. So, in celebration of the new movie, I wanted to take a look at one of the most memorable issues of the Ostrander era, the one that would solidify Amanda Waller's reputation as a badass forever. After the events taking place in the last issue, we see Rick Flag recuperating, having to deal with the 1-2 emotional gut punch of his ex, Dr. Corinne Grace, first betraying the team and later sacrificing herself to complete the mission. Waller doesn't particularly care for Flag's mental state, as he was never her choice for squad leader and feels that he's a liability. She prepares to leave for Washington but immediately enforces a lockdown and asks all available members of the squad to move their butts as there's an intruder in the prison. A prisoner who was transferred from Gotham City. The only available squad members are Deadshot and the mysterious new Duchess who randomly showed up last issue. The latter confronts Batman first and shows herself to be remarkably strong and durable, with Batman only winning with the help of a sneak gas attack. Next up, it's Deadshot's turn, but Bat simply ducks and decks him. Finally, Flag manages to slow down Batman long enough for Waller to show up. Waller asks why is Batman doing all this, and he responds that his problem is with the entire setup. Law enforcement and superheroes put a lot of these criminals in jail, and by letting them loose to do her bidding, Waller has turned the entire idea of justice into a farce, so he's here to shut them down. Waller doesn't give a damn and fires back a threat of her own. While smuggling himself into Bel Rev, Batman left a nice set of prints in his cell, which is now in Waller's hands. So unless he wants them to expose his secret identity, he hands over the evidence he found and leaves. Batman is forced to agree, but promises that this isn't over. After Batman leaves, Deadshot begins to gloat about how they made the bat turn tail, but Flag tears into him, pissed off at having to make an enemy out of a good man to protect scum. Flag vows to whip them into shape, and Waller, impressed by this display, decides to keep him on as leader of the Suicide Squad. If my effervescent praise at the beginning of this video wasn't enough to tip you off, this is a damn good comic. Batman would come into conflict with the squad really shortly in a crossover with the then Justice League International comic, and later on in the run, actually work alongside Waller, which might actually surprise modern Batman fans accustomed to the more black and white version of the character. The Duchess's origin would be revealed later on, which would lead to one of the most devastating missions in the squad's history, with several longtime members dying. It wasn't called the Suicide Squad for nothing. Even the vaunted Rick Flag wasn't safe and would die completing a mission. As for the main woman herself, in my opinion, this is the only version of Amanda Waller in mainstream continuity that works. The other one that comes to mind is the DCAU version voiced by CCH Pounder. While a no-nonsense taskmaster and completely willing to sack any troublesome squad members, Ostrander's version of Amanda Waller has one thing that every other comic book version lacked: a conscience. She actually wasn't willing to sack inmates at the drop of a hat, and despite her best efforts to hide it, she actually cared deeply for those she became close to on the squad. She would even go to prison willingly, albeit with the knowledge that she'd be sprung out the moment she was needed. Something unthinkable for any current version of the character. So, if you decide to pick up a Suicide Squad comic after the movie, pick up something written by John Ostrander. I think I've made my case on the subject. Also, Amanda Waller has repeatedly won the Battle of the Barbs with the Bat. If that's not enough to convince you, nothing will.